Donald Trump really seen by a lot of these leaders, not all, as a wrecking ball, as a guy who sort of barges in with his America First agenda and basically lays waste to all of the best laid plans. Now, the summit, what's it supposed to talk about, right? It's all about multilateralism, right? It's supposed to talk about things like trade, like you said, climate change, women in the workplace, all of these issues. We know where Donald Trump stands. He's called climate change time and again a hoax. Women in the workplace, this is a president just last week had a 16th woman come out accusing him of sexual assault, who's boasted of grabbing women's genitals on the campaign trail in a tape that came out. On trade issues, he's a man who has launched trade wars with allies, with adversaries, or threatened trade wars, slapping tariffs left and right. So he really has been seen by many as the disruptor in chief. And he went into this summit, and he might have changed his tone a little in the early hours of the opening, but he went in bashing his allies, Japan and Germany notably, bashing Japan's scathing criticism about the Mutual Defense Treaty, the post-World War II defense treaty between the U.S. and Japan. On Germany returning to the worn theme of Germany and NATO not paying enough of their dues. India slamming India for over its trade policies. Who has he not been critical of coming into this summit? Two people he's going to be meeting with over the next 2 days. One, Vladimir Putin, whom the U.S. Intelligence community has accused of Russian meddling, determined that Russia meddled in the U.S. elections. Meeting with him, no criticism so far of Putin. No criticism also of Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi Arabian crown prince, who was just last week found by the United Nations to be most likely implicated in ordering the murder of a Saudi dissident journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. So he's very much full of a lot of criticism coming in for his allies, much more mute when it comes to people that a lot of people say he should be more critical of.
Now, you mentioned then he's meeting today with Vladimir Putin, but there is another crucial meeting we'll be watching, isn't there? The meeting he has with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping.
Yeah.
Now, they met last year at the G20.
Yes.
But for all intents and purposes, they actually didn't get on that badly. Is it possible this time around that they might defy the skeptics and reach a deal on trade?
Nadia, is it possible? Yes. And, you know, you could argue it's in the interest of both sides right now to somehow secure a deal. The problem is neither one wants to be seen as weak or capitulating to the demands of the other. You're absolutely right. In Buenos Aires, they sort of walked away. Trump agreed to delay reimposing tariffs on a lot of stuff. The Chinese agreed to resume buying soybeans from the United States. Things seemed to be going okay last December. And as recently as April, they were almost on a cusp of a deal. Then everything collapsed in May. They collapsed last month. Where we stand right now, Donald Trump has imposed already $250 billion tariffs on $250 billion worth of Chinese goods. What he's threatening now is to slap tariffs on the remaining $300 billion of Chinese imports that he hasn't already put tariffs on, putting those levies on. And what is now Xi expected to demand? I say expected. There was a report in the Wall Street Journal in the past few days. If we could bring that up, we have another little chart. Some points that Xi is about to bring to the table, we think. He's going to ask that Donald Trump lift that ban on Huawei, the telecom giant, being able to buy components, sell components to American companies, drop all punitive tariffs. That is just, he's going to say to Trump, drop these tariffs. We do not need a trade war at this moment in time. Future tariffs as well. And do not force China to buy more U.S. exports. That's another demand. I have to say expected. So it comes with a big disclaimer here. We don't know he's going to bring these demands, but it's highly likely he will. Whether they'll see eye to eye, like I said, it's in their interest to have a deal, but neither wants to be seen weak. So it's going to be a very delicate balancing act.
OK, what about climate change, though, Doug? That's another key issue at this summit. It's one that Emmanuel Macron has made a lot of noise about. He wants a strong statement coming out of this G20. Is he likely to get it, or are some leaders going to be a bit resistant?
He's not going to get a strong statement as long as Donald Trump is at that table. And you know what? I won't just point the finger at Donald Trump, who's called climate change a hoax. Shinzo Abe, who's the summit host, has really kowtowed. He's almost groveled to Donald Trump because he's in very delicate trade talks, Japan with the U.S. as well. He doesn't want to do anything to upset the U.S. president that might rattle things. So even though Shinzo Abe has spoken, tough talk about protecting the climate, he's much more in Donald Trump's corner, it seems, on the climate, or willing to sort of concede to Donald Trump on that. But Emmanuel Macron has drawn a clear red line. Emmanuel Macron, obviously president of France, which hosted that 2015 Paris International Climate Accord, from which the United States signally withdrew. He is basically saying there's a red line here. Unless we could have, unless there's strong language reaffirming the world's commitment to that Paris Climate Agreement in the final statement out of this summit, we're not signing that statement, we being France. So he's sort of laid down the gauntlet there. But like I said, Donald Trump is coming into this with his rigid sort of lines on the climate. He thinks it's a hoax. I doubt that he is going to agree to any language that reaffirms a commitment to the Paris climate talks. They're probably going to massage it somehow to get the type of language that can perhaps meet all sides. The question is, would France sign that document? So yeah, climate change, once again, obviously going to be front and center more than ever. It's a dominant issue in campaigns, especially in the coming campaign in the United States. But whether or not it is going to satisfy a lot of the climate activists and a lot of the campaigners, a lot of the people who've been marching across the world for more firm action by their governments, I think they're likely to be disappointed by the final language out of this summit.